What if I told you that traditional SEO is no longer enough? That your content could be top-notch, your keywords dialed in, and yet still invisible where your audience actually spends their time? Welcome to the era of search everywhere. I'm Rob Curtis, and this is Marketing Unzipped, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on what really drives digital growth. Today, we're talking about one of the biggest shifts in digital marketing strategy, the transformation from search engine optimization to what I like to call search everywhere optimization. It's no longer just about ranking on Google. Discoverability today stretches across YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Amazon, Pinterest, even within the feeds and the internal search bars of every major platform. And the rules of this game now have changed dramatically. So in this episode, we're going to go deep. We'll trace where SEO started, how it's evolved, and why marketers, most importantly, need to rethink their entire approach to visibility. By the end, you'll walk away with practical strategies and steps to ensure your brand shows up where your audience is actually looking for you. I love my history, so let's rewind a little bit. Back in the early days of the internet, SEO was pretty straightforward. It was really fun and really easy because if you wanted to rank on a search engine, you stuffed your page with keywords, you loaded up on backlinks and hope no one noticed your white text on white background. It was the wild, wild west of digital life. But then came the era of Google dominance. With it, a complete steady stream of algorithm updates. Panda, Penguin, Hummingbird, and more core algorithm updates. Each run refining how search engines understood content. Suddenly, quality mattered, relevance mattered, and so did user experience. We saw mobile-first indexing become the norm, page speed, site structure, content depth started to influence rankings. Marketers shifted focus from just keywords to intent. SEO matured into a discipline that required real strategy, grounded in empathy for how users search and what they expect to find. But here's the thing, while all eyes stayed on Google SERPs, quiet revolution began to brew. People weren't just searching on search engines anymore. They were discovering through social feeds, app stores, marketplaces, and more. The path to content was fragmenting. And that's where we find ourselves today. The old SEO rules, still relevant, but only as part of a much, much bigger picture. So if traditional SEO was about visibility on search engines, the question becomes, where else are people searching? More importantly, how do we show up there? This is where that search everywhere optimization mindset comes in. Instead of focusing solely on Google, we start thinking holistically about discoverability. It's about understanding that people are searching actively or passively on platforms far beyond a single search bar. Think about how we behave today. We might scroll TikTok for how-to videos, use Instagram to explore products, dive into Reddit for reviews, search on LinkedIn to find industry voices and insights. The exciting thing is these aren't secondary channels anymore. They're primary discovery engines in their own right. This search everywhere optimization, it means creating content that's built to be found wherever your audience is spending their attention. It's about showing up in their native environments and with content that's tailored to how they explore and consume information there. The fun part, each of these platforms has its own search algorithm, its own signals, and its own rules for visibility. What works on one channel won't work on the others. And that's why this one-size-fits-all approach just doesn't cut it anymore. This isn't about abandoning traditional SEO. It's about expanding your strategy and your approach to reflect this change. And for me, one of the biggest parts of this is social media. So let's talk about how one of the most powerful and often overlooked shifts in digital behavior. Social media platforms are becoming search engines. For a long time, it was just about engagement. It was about likes, comments, shares. But users are now searching on social platforms with real intent. They're looking for recommendations, tutorials, inspiration, reviews, just like they would on Google. They're expecting faster, more visual, and more personalized results. TikTok is one of my favorites for this. People could search for things like best coffee in London or how to style white trainers. They're getting instant community-driven answers. Instagram's keyword search and suggested results have grown even more intelligent. And LinkedIn, in my opinion, is becoming the go-to for that B2B discovery, searching for people, companies, services, and thought leadership content. And when we think about the whole user journey of our consumers, it's shifting drastically. Someone might discover your product on Instagram, validate it through reviews on TikTok, learn more and dive into deeper content on YouTube, and then make a purchase through your site, all without touching Google once. And this evolution means that your content can't just live on your website and hope for search traffic. It needs to be discoverable in formats and styles that match each platform. Short-form video, image carousels, bite-sized thought leadership posts, hashtag strategies, even optimized bios and pinning content. These are your new ranking factors. So if you still treat social as just a place to post and forget, you're missing the biggest opportunity. The goal is not just to create for engagement, but to optimize for discovery. And that's the fundamental mindset we have to move to in how we want to approach content strategy. Let's break down what optimization looks like across the major platforms, because each one, it plays by its own rule, and your strategy has to flex. For me, YouTube is still a search engine at its core, but it blends traditional search behaviors with content discovery. Your optimization here starts with those things you would expect. Your title, it needs to be clear, keyword rich, value driven. Description should reinforce your topic, include relevant keywords and link to related content. But what really drives this visibility? Watch time, click-through rates, engagement. The algorithm wants to serve videos that people actually stick around to watch. The thumbnails matter, chapters help, and of course, consistent posting signals that credibility. And that's a theme throughout all of these platforms, is consistency. But when we take a look at Instagram, it's evolved from just being a visually engaging platform. Its internal search functionality pulls from captions, hashtags, alt text. That means your captions need to do more than tell a story. They need to be keyword aware. Carousels and Reels, for me, are the most discoverable formats. Reels in particular, they feed into the explore process and suggested content streams. But they also pay attention to engagement signals, the saves, shares, comments, because they tell the platform your content is worth recommending. Let's call it the newest to the herd, but TikTok, it's a discovery first platform. Search plays a huge role in that. Users are typing real questions into a search bar and expecting fast, visual, engaging answers. Optimization here is about clarity in your captions, intelligent usage of your trending sounds, and content that delivers value in those first few seconds. Think of TikTok not just as your creative outlet, but almost as a visual FAQ section for your brand. Answer real questions, solve real problems, show, don't just tell. And for me, one of my favorites is still and probably will always be LinkedIn. For me, it's the powerhouse of B2B discovery. And while its algorithm is more relational than search heavy, its search bar is becoming a key navigational tool. Keywords in your headlines, about sections, and even your post language can boost discoverability. Text-based posts that share those insights, the behind-the-scenes stories or industry commentary tend to get strong traction, especially when they spark conversation. So you need to remember to not underestimate the power of consistent interaction. Engagement builds visibility here. So across every platform, discoverability, it just looks so different, but the principle is the same. Meet your audience where they're searching, with content that answers what they're looking for, in the format they want to consume it. When we think about it, let's go even further, because optimizing for search everywhere isn't just about checking boxes. It's about understanding the psychology of each platform, how their algorithms prioritize content, and how users behave when they're in those environments. YouTube is a search engine, as I mentioned. What it rewards most is that audience retention. The platform's primary goal is to keep users watching videos, not just by clicking them. So if your videos open in 15 seconds, they're not clear, they're not structured, and they're not visually engaging, the algorithm will plug it straight in the bin. So what you can think about doing on YouTube is front load the context. Begin with a hook that proves exactly what value the viewer will get. Don't waste time with intros and branding. Use formats like problem solution proof or myth busting frameworks to really have that structured storytelling process. This helps keep the viewers engaged across sections. Trackers and timestamps. These aren't just for UX, they help Google understand topic segmentation, which improves external discoverability. Think of that click-through chain logic, and that's a lot of jargon to throw into a sentence. But plan for the video journeys. Use your end screens to link to related content strategically, not randomly. YouTube's goal isn't to surface videos that get the most clicks, it's to surface content that drives session time. Optimize for that and you'll win. Let's take a look at Instagram. Its search evolution is subtle but powerful. It now relies heavily on semantic understanding. That means it's not just scanning your hashtags. It's parsing and reading the meaning of your captions, alt text, and your comments. So things you can do is a nice little app, albeit I hate the term, a bit of keyword stacking in captions. So use natural language to layer related words. So for example, instead of saying marketing tips, use phrases like small business marketing strategies, content creation tips for Instagram, how to grow your brand online, all within one caption. Content clustering via carousels. Instagram surfaces carousel posts longer in feeds, especially when saved. Use carousels to group micro lessons on one topic. Each slide, it equals a standalone insight. We can optimize those bios. Your bio is indexed. Use specific vertical keywords, not job titles. For example, something like helping e-commerce brands scale with UGC and retention strategy, instead of good old digital marketer. Conversation mining. Identify real search language from your DMs or story replies. Turn them into post copy. The algorithm mirrors user phrasing patterns in its recommendations. Don't optimize for the algorithm in this process though, optimize with it. speaks the same language your audience uses when they search and save content. Let's take another look at that TikTok. TikTok's discovery engine is about relevance and watch through rate. It reads your content on multiple levels, visually, contextually, it's audio and behavioral. So things like the overlay text, it's indexable content. TikTok scans on-screen text. Use overlays that include key search terms. Don't just say tips, say email marketing tips for SaaS founders. Think about that engagement loop structure. So content that performs well keeps users engaged and commenting. Use open loops. For example, this is part 1 of how I grew my business from zero. Want part 2? Real-time content freshness. TikTok massively prioritizes recency. Don't rely on evergreen. It's good to have and good to utilize, but don't rely on it. Build episode or reactive content that you can publish frequently, tied to ongoing audience questions. One of my favorites is captionless testing. Occasionally test no captions, but rely on spoken words and on-screen text. The algorithm reads everything. You'll gain data on how your visuals perform in isolation. And for me, success on TikTok is about surfacing in moments of curiosity. Think of every post as a direct answer to a micro question your audience hasn't even typed into Google yet. How about LinkedIn? For me, LinkedIn's algorithm isn't just showing content to your network anymore. It's prioritizing creators based on interaction, density, comment quality, and consistency. And this is where content velocity and network graph understanding become key. Sorry for the jargon, but we can think about that strategic post process. Post clusters of content over 7 to 10 days around a single idea. This creates content gravity, and LinkedIn can begin to identify you as a topical authority. For me, what I see is the first 90 minutes after publishing is crucial. So seed meaningful comments through direct outreach or Slack groups. Don't just ask for likes, ask for reactions and adds to the conversation. Get your community engaging in your content is what I'm trying to say. My favorite one for me is the slide decks, the carousel style content. They get 2 to 3 times dwelling time and are indexed for that keyword relevant. Use them to break down those complex concepts visually and drive the saves. Can't even count the amount of pieces of content that I save from other content creators. And it does great for that increased visibility. One of my favorite tactics though is signal stacking in your profiles. So match the language in your about section, featured content and headline. This aligns your profile with an in-platform search and external engines like Bing. LinkedIn's search layer though, it's still definitely maturing, but we've seen these other platforms go this way. So I can only expect the influence to continue to evolve. You don't need to go viral in this process. You need to build authority, one content block at a time. And for me, these aren't just tips, they're tactical shifts in how you approach each platform, designed to amplify discoverability, build reputation, and ultimately convert attention into impact. If platform-specific optimization is the foundation, then understanding how AI powers those platforms is your unfair advantage. Let's call it the secret sauce. Because today's content discovery isn't just algorithmic, it's adaptive, predictive, and context-aware. It's changing this game in ways many marketers still underestimate. For me, the shift that's quietly happened behind the scenes is this. Traditional search was reactive. You type something in and got results. Modern discovery, powered by AI, is predictive. Platforms now deliver content before users search based on inferred interests, behavioral patterns, and content relationships. On TikTok, think of that For You page, that For You feed. It is entirely driven by machine learning. It's not ranking based on hashtags, it's ranking based on watch patterns, pause duration, replays, and sentiment signals from the user behavior. On LinkedIn, AI prioritizes content that it predicts will drive engagement in a user's niche, not just what their connections post. YouTube's homepage is no longer curated around subscriptions. It's a prediction engine trained to serve content aligned with evolving interests. This means optimization isn't just about what people are searching. It's about what the algorithm thinks they want next. That's a radical shift. So there's marketers who still just build content calendars from keyword reports. Here's the nuance. AI doesn't read this content the way we do. It parses structure, context, sentiment, and consistency across time. This is exactly why keyword stuffing into a caption or title just doesn't work anymore. For me, I love, and I seem to say that word semantic all the time, but how AI connects related terms and ideas. If you consistently post about retention marketing, it will connect that to churn reduction, lifetime value, onboarding, all without you explicitly saying it. Platforms now interpret visual, textual, and audio content together. TikTok analyzes what's spoken in your video, Instagram reads your alt text, captions, and even engagement patterns. Then we think about things like cross-platform profiling. Increasingly, AI creates this content fingerprint of you as a creator. If your tone, visuals, value are consistent, you're easier to deliver on that platform and others. So the question to me becomes, are you building content that machines understand and want to serve? Are you just hoping your audience finds you? So let's be clear with this. AI doesn't just reward the loudest voice. It rewards the clearest signal. The more thematically consistent your content is, the more confidently the algorithm can index and recommend it. That's where strategy beats volume. So we need to think about how we train these algorithms. The first 10, 20 pieces of content in a new direction matter most. They define your signal. So optimize for that cluster of content, not just the clicks. So create content that builds around a core topic. A single high-performing post is a fluke. A cluster tells the system, this is what I'm about. And review what content performs and what platforms start pushing without your boost. That's AI telling you it wants more of it. So you've got to lean in. So putting your marketing hat on, your job isn't to game this system, it's to feed it the right info, the data, being strategic and aligned and relevant. If you do, it will scale your reach in ways manual targeting never could. So now for every opportunity in this search everywhere approach, there's an equal number of missteps waiting to happen. And often it's not the big mistakes that hold these brands back. It's the subtle misalignments between content, platform, and intent. So firstly, just because your audience uses multiple platforms doesn't mean you should treat every platform equally. Spreading yourself thin leads to diluted messaging and generic content. It's better to dominate where your audience is most likely discovering than to dabble across 10 spaces with no impact. Presence without purpose is a noise. Prioritize where your content format, message, and expertise intersect with that user intent. So for me, repurposing content is a smart step to get towards taking over and growing on multiple channels. Reposting it without adapting is not. What works on LinkedIn won't necessarily land on Instagram. TikTok, for example, demands such movement and pacing. LinkedIn thrives on clarity and narrative. So you could think about a carousel on Instagram might become a document post on LinkedIn. A 60-second TikTok could be reframed as a voiceover reel with a different CTA. A long-form YouTube video might become a podcast. Each platform has its own language. We need to translate, not duplicate. That's the key. And for me, we don't want to chase trends without relevance. Trends are really tempting, but if they're not aligned with your brand narrative, they create confusion, not connection. Just because a sound is trending on TikTok doesn't mean it supports your message. Just because everyone's posting hot takes on LinkedIn doesn't mean your audience wants one from you. Trend jacking for me without brand alignment is like yelling in the crowd. You're loud, but not memorable. So for me, automation, it can save time, massive amount of time, and I'm a big fan of it, but can also strip away the nuance that drives that engagement. We've done lots of testing in this process, and things like just flipping my podcast into a social post is all well and good, but repeating that on multiple platforms isn't going to be the way to go. Because as I've already mentioned, it needs to talk to different pieces. And when you think about that automation of things like auto responses in your comments and feeds, it kills the conversation. AI generated posts without human oversight, it just lacks the soul. So me, use that automation to scale the system, not replace the strategy. Stay human in your tone, your timing, and your responses. And for me, the big one, if you're measuring success by likes and follower counts, you're optimizing for the wrong outcome. Discovery in the modern ecosystem is about relevance and resonance, not vanity. You should be measuring saves, shares, time on content, profile clicks, and downstream conversions. Great content doesn't just get attention, it earns intention. Focus on metrics that actually reflect that. If you're new to the space as well, I would encourage you, don't even think about the metrics. Build a concept and just get creating. Build yourself a rhythm that you'll only improve upon. In this new era of discoverability, your biggest risk isn't doing the wrong thing. It's just doing the average thing. The algorithms are getting smarter, the audience is more discerning, and your strategy needs to rise to meet both of these. So that's a lot of details. So we have to think about, where is all this heading? So if the last decade was about just ranking on Google, the next decade will be about earning visibility across ecosystems, not through keywords alone, but through contextual relevance, brand, and adaptive content strategy. Search is no longer an isolated act. It's become ambient. Users are discovering content in places they weren't intentionally searching. Through socials, AI curated feeds, personalized notifications, and even channels and collaborative tools like Slack and Notion. A buyer might stumble on your case study via a LinkedIn comment thread. A creator might discover your brand while browsing a TikTok sound library. A decision maker might read your newsletter snippet embedded in an email automation course. A decision maker might read your newsletter snippet embedded in an email automation course. You're not just competing with your industry, you're competing with everything else in your audience's digital attention span. And for me, we're also moving from this linear customer journey to a much more dynamic, looping discovery. People don't just find you, evaluate, and buy from you. They discover, they bounce, they revisit. You throw a reel, they maybe convert via a podcast episode or a thought leadership post. That's why discoverability isn't a top of the funnel game anymore. It's full funnel. It drives trust before intent and reinforces intent long after awareness. Search will always involve some form of input, but what's changing is how platforms interpret those inputs. As I've mentioned, AI is moving from matching to meaning, and that means your content strategy has to shift from individual pieces to thematic consistency. And for me, consistency equals strength. Platforms amplify voices that they can categorize. Intent-based clusters outperform single topic hero pieces. And that brand tonality and perspective, they become searchable assets. The brands that win aren't the ones that shout the loudest. They're the ones whose content creates clarity, trust, and relevance across every digital touchpoint. Search isn't dying. It's decentralizing. Visibility isn't just about ranking number one. It's about earning relevance in the moment, platforms, and context where your audience is already active. So don't just optimize for search, optimize for discovery. Be native to each channel, be consistent in your narrative, and build content that deserves to be surfaced, shared, and remembered. All right, so let's ground this into action. Whether you're just about to start to evolve your SEO strategy or you're already leaning into this platform native optimization, here's how you can turn all of this into measurable impact. So if you're a new adopter, let's do a few foundational pieces. So audit your discoverability footprint. Start by Googling your brand, your product names, your founders' names, and common questions in your niche. Do you show up? If so, on which platforms? What content appears? This quick audit shows where you're visible and where you're invisible. Identify your discovery hotspots. Pick 2 or 3 platforms where your audience is already active and already searching. For a visual product, that might be Instagram or Pinterest. For B2B, you might lean into LinkedIn and YouTube. Start where the attention already is. Optimize your profile architecture. So treat your social profiles like landing pages. Use keyword-rich bios. Link out strategically. Pin high-performing content. Align your tone with your audience's expectations for that space. Repurpose your content, but natively. If you publish a blog post, extract key ideas into a LinkedIn post, a reel, a TikTok tip, and a slide deck. Adapt the format and tone to fit instead of copying and pasting. And shift from promotional to problem-solving content. This is a great opportunity to build trust in this whole journey with your consumers. So create around questions your audience actually asks. Use tools like Answer the Public, Google Search Console. You've probably got the data in front of you already, but things like Google's auto-suggest, Reddit threads, or just your own DMs on what your now customers talk to you about, and find the language that resonates with them. These foundational steps, it builds trust with both your audience and the algorithms. And once you have them locked in, you can start to take another level. So let's think about some of those more advanced tactics. Let's say for some of you strategists, marketers, business owners that are starting, that have been playing in this area and really want to hone in on what great looks like. And I mentioned this a couple of times already, but build content clusters around those micro intents. So forget these single keywords. Instead, identify clusters of intent. So for example, instead of just targeting email marketing, build content around how to increase open rates, segmentation best practices, abandoned cart sequences, cross-link, cross-post, and create continuity across your platforms. Use content velocity windows. So algorithms always will reward momentum. So use 30-day sprints, 10-day sprints, 20-day sprints to post consistently around a focused topic using varying formats. This signal stacking approach helps platforms associate with you and your brand with a domain of expertise and serves your content to new but relevant audiences. Don't just click your podcast or webinar into short videos. Script it intentionally. Add native captions. Turn segments into mini-series. Add keyword-laced context in pinned comments or alt text. Treat every long-form asset as a library, not just as a one-off piece of content. So when you think about how you can leverage content mining and in-platform search bars, so look at phrasing people use in your comment sections, Reddit posts, TikTok DMs, Google's People Also Asked. Build content around those exact phrases. They're already search validated. And train the algorithm with intentional repetition. Post variations of the same idea with different angles, hooks, or formats. This then teaches the platform your niche faster without burning out your audience. For example, run 3 different videos answering the same question, each from a different user pain point. The truth is, the better you understand platform psychology, the more discoverable you become. The secret isn't more content, it's smarter content distribution. So where does that leave us? Do we bin off Google? No, SEO hasn't disappeared, it's just evolved. It's no longer confined to one box at the top of the Google results page. Today, search is happening everywhere, all the time, in formats we never used to associate with discovery. And your brand, it has to meet that moment. We've covered that journey from traditional SEO to the explosion of platform native optimization and how AI discovery is going to enhance that even further. The shift in metrics and the strategic layers most marketers miss. But here's what I want you to take away. Visibility is no longer about chasing algorithms. It's about understanding the ecosystems. As I keep saying, the brands that win aren't louder. They're more intentional, more consistent, and more context aware. They create content that speaks directly to their audience in the places they're already looking. If you're ready to rethink how your brand shows up, and not just on Google, but everywhere, it starts with strategy, not shortcuts. Thanks for listening to Marketing Unzipped with me, Rob Curtis. I'll catch you in the next episode. But if you found this session valuable, just do me a huge favor. Share it with a friend, a fellow marketer, somebody you know in your networking community, for it to give them value. If we can help one more business every single episode, it means it's worth our while. And until next time, stay curious, stay relevant, and keep showing up where it matters most.